All right, so today we're going to be talking about my all-time favorite drugstore affordable highlighters. I was actually going to combine high-end and drugstore into just one video, but as I was looking through everything, we were getting to like 30 highlighters, and so many of them were drugstore, so I figured I would just break up the videos. I will do high-end favorites coming. By the way, today when I'm filming this, I'm also filming the Foundation Friday on the Giorgio Armani Neo Nude Foundation, so if you want to know my makeup details, the Foundation Friday will definitely be up first, so you can check out that video. But if you enjoy this video while you're watching and find it helpful, you can give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, I upload every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific time. All right, so let's start off with one that I'm pretty sure I discovered within the last about year or so. By the way, I did a video a couple years ago or more, maybe even like 3 years ago now, on my favorite highlighters that don't emphasize texture. So I will link that video in the eye down below, but I just felt like it was time for an update, you know, and there's been so many highlighters since then that I've discovered that hadn't come out then or that I just hadn't tried yet. So this is kind of like an updated version of that. But first we're going to talk about this Pixi highlight. So this is their Subtle Sunrise Gossamer Duo. In my opinion, Pixi, the highlights that I've tried from them, they make some of the best drugstore highlights. You can get Pixi at Target. This is such a soft, buttery, but dry formula, and I say that not in like a bad dry way. Buttery, but it doesn't feel creamy. It's almost more of like a, I don't know what to do with these fingers right now. It's kind of, peace? Okay. Here are the two shades. I can wear both of them, but I do definitely prefer this one on fair skin. If I'm wearing self-tanner, I can use this one, but typically I'll just, why are these fingers feeling so awkward today? But just on a day-to-day, I would use the lighter gold shade on my skin tone. They don't have glitter. They're just super metallic and reflective, and this is definitely one of the more intense ones I'm going to mention, but they just sit really soft on the skin. I do have more textured skin, so a lot of highlighters, like especially Anastasia, that kind of formula, they just really emphasize my texture. So the ones I'm talking about are kind of like both, you know. I like them, but they also don't emphasize my texture because I tend to not like highlighters that do any of us. Probably not. Here they are swatched on my hand if you want to see. Some highlighters look totally different on the face than they do when you swatch them, so just keep that in mind. I also really appreciate this packaging. Side note, I just like how sleek and basic it is. It just has the pans. It's not clunky. Good job, Pixi. Next up is a highlight that I cannot put down. This thing is so friggin' beautiful. It's the Revolution Just My Type Highlighter Reloaded. You can get this on Ulta. This is a beautiful champagne that has peach in it. I've kind of steered away. I used to really like kind of more icy pink tone highlights, and probably within the last couple of years, I definitely like more of a champagne, and I do like a little bit of a peach every now and then. This one isn't like too orangey, it just is so reflective, and again, it doesn't emphasize my texture. It is a more intense highlight. I have some that I'm going to talk about that are way more natural, but as you can see, that one is just like, bam. I really don't like glitter in highlights, so any of the highlighters I'm talking about today don't have glitter in them. I cannot stand having flecks of glitter on my face. It just drives me a little bit insane. So all of them are just more reflective. Next up, we have a highlight from Collab, and I feel like this is so underrated. This is in the shade Glow for the Gold. It's their filter highlighting powder, and it does give you that just like very natural glow from within look, but it's still pretty intense, but you can use a lighter hand and get more of like a natural glow with this one. The thing I love about this too is that it is extremely buttery. It almost reminds me a little bit of the Pure Afterglow highlight that I love. That one will definitely be coming in my high-end highlight favorites. That one is so pretty. This is pretty similar to that, like the effect that it gives, and it is just so friggin' soft. Like, I feel like this would be a really pretty bridal highlight. I do see why they called it like the filter highlighting powder. It does give that kind of look. And Collab you can get at Sally Beauty supply stores, which are all over the US. Obviously, you can tell mine is well loved. So this next one I would say is my favorite extremely natural looking highlight. This is the Essence Pure Nude Highlighter in 10 Be My Highlight. This one is borderline almost too dark. Sometimes it can look too dark and peachy on my skin tone. It kind of just depends on the foundation and the rest of the makeup I'm wearing. But if you're looking for that very natural glow from within highlight, this is it. If you haven't tried this yet, this is a few dollars from Essence. You can get this on Ulta as well. And this doesn't even do it justice. When it's on your skin, oh my god, it is unlike any other highlight I've found so far. So I wish they came out with more shades. I know they do have a lighter one, but that one is almost like a pinky bluish. I really despise when brands make white looking highlights, but then they're actually purple. They do have darker shades of this now. It comes in a palette. So if you have a deeper skin tone, they have darker shades available, which is great. But if you're someone where maybe you have more mature skin, but you're looking to still have that glow, I think this would be a really good option. Or if you're just someone who likes very natural, minimal kind of makeup and you want to give the appearance of having very healthy, glowing skin, this will be, whoa, this will be your guy. I can see this being really pretty for bridal makeup too if you want less of an intense highlight than the Collab one. Very similar kind of soft look on the skin. So next we have a $1 highlight from Shop Miss A. This is their AOA Studio line. It's cruelty free. It is $1. This is their velour highlighter. These come in a bunch of different shades. My favorite is the shade Sometimes. It's a super creamy, bouncy formula, and it is so friggin' pretty. I feel like I haven't used this enough in videos, but it is gorgeous if you want that, again, kind of champagne, a little bit peach undertone, but they do have tons of other shades if this isn't your cup of tea. It's so reflective, and this looks really nice on no makeup days. If you're wondering what the formula is like, I would say it's pretty similar to ColourPop. It might feel a tiny bit more wet, but it's super similar where it does have that kind of moussey cream feel, but then once it's on your skin, it kind of just is more of like a moisturizing powder almost. It's really unique. And if you blend it out or use less, you can get that same kind of look as the Essence one, natural glow. Next up, this is a Milani highlight. They absolutely killed it with the formula of this. This is their Highlighter Duo in Supercharged. I've talked a lot about this one. I'm pretty sure it was in a Raves and Rejects video at some point, but this highlight duo, oh my God. Let me just swatch both of them for you. One is obviously more pink. One is more of a, again, like light champagne. I can't use the pink one on my skin normally unless I have self-tanner on, but I really like it as a blush topper. So if you're around my skin tone, you can still use that shade. Just kind of use it more with a light hand and fluffier brush as a blush topper since it is quite peachy pink. And then here's the lighter shade. I tend to go for the same kind of formula where they're buttery, don't emphasize texture, all of those things. This is that. The formula of this feels less dry than the Pixi one, but I feel like it gives a very similar kind of look on the face. I would say the Pixi might be a little bit more intense though. So this is kind of like a good medium. This is a good one where I feel like you can build it up or you can use a lighter hand and get less of an intense glow. All right, we are throwing it back to this one. This is one of my all-time favorite like OG highlighter palettes. This is the e.l.f. Illuminating palette. I have hit pan on this shade right here. I've been talking about this for years on my channel. This is such a unique formula to me, and it is so underrated for just like that glow from within look. This is different than any of the other products I'm talking about. This is more of a almost like hourglass ambient light powder. This is almost like a mix of a glowy powder and a highlight to me. Swatching this one doesn't do it justice. It kind of just looks like a white powder, but when it's on your face, oh my God, look at how just natural and soft that looks. Out of anything I've talked about, I would say it's actually most similar to the Collab one in that sense, but the Collab is more intense. The one thing I'll say about this formula is that it is very powdery, so just be ready for that. It is a powdery formula, but once you blend this into your skin, you'll see it is such a unique product. Another e.l.f. highlight. I actually have a few other e.l.f. products too, so apparently I like e.l.f. highlighters. But this is their Glow Gleam Beam palette. Obviously the lightest shade of mine broke, but that's not actually the shade I like to use. I like to use this shade right here specifically. This shade is worth it for the entire palette. These ones are nice too, but I would rather use those as eyeshadows rather than face highlights. This shade is probably closest to that Revolution one I mentioned, where it's definitely more intense. Like I don't use this when I'm going for a subtle highlight. It is pretty intense, but still it doesn't emphasize my textures. And then here's this shade. So that one is super intense. I still like that bottom row, but I just find myself reaching for this one the most. And these could also double as eyeshadows. So if you're someone who's like, okay, all of these sound great, but none of them are pinky, here's the pink one for you. This is the J.Cat You Glow Girl Big Highlighter in Bella Rose. Again, I've talked about this for years. This is actually my last highlighter video. This one is that like icy pink kind of undertone. It gives you that like almost intense wet look when it's on your face. Look at that. Ooh, it is so good. J.Cat actually makes two of my favorite highlights because this other one is their Luxe Pro Powder in Pearl Luminizer. Again, if you haven't tried this, this is so underrated. Personally, I prefer the Pearl Luminizer to this one now because I like kind of more, again, glow from within kind of looks, but both of them are really pretty. This one's just definitely more intense. I don't love using this just because of the, you know, it's a loose powder, but it is wild, you guys. It is so So pretty. Okay, that doesn't do it justice. This is one of those that I can't even swatch for you because it looks so different on the face. It's definitely my favorite loose powder highlight I've ever tried. And this one you can really alter to get more of an intense look or more of a natural look. So if you don't mind using loose powders and that sounds good to you, this one does have more of like a pink undertone, but it's not as pink as this one. This I could also see being a really beautiful bridal highlight. I wanted to mention this one. It's not technically a highlighter. It's the e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder, but you can use this as a highlight, again, if you want that very subtle glow from within look. It's not a highlight. It's intended to be a powder, but if you use it on the Sigma F03, this is what I'll use if I have a product like this where maybe it's not intended to be a highlight or it's just very subtle and I want to kind of amp it up a little bit. If you use this brush, it definitely does it. For other highlights where maybe they're too intense and I kind of want it to look more soft, I'll use this brush, the Milani All Over Blending. You can see the difference here. Milani is just a little bit bigger. Because it's bigger, it kind of just softens everything up. This one is more of like a targeted highlight brush. It's definitely a little bit smaller. So it's a good one to use if you're transforming a glowy face powder into a highlight, which you can totally do. This one has almost like a bit of a yellow undertone, so I don't like using it for an all over face powder, but for just that, I need another word for glow from within, but it's just that soft focus kind of glow. There we go, soft focus glow. It's super subtle and it's hard to swatch on the hand, but when it's on your face, it looks so pretty. All right, and then coming down to my last couple favorites, Physicians Formula Natural Nude. Who's been following me for as long as I've been talking about this? Because this was like right when I started my channel, the first like year or so, I discovered this, and again, such an underrated drugstore highlight. Hate the packaging, but love the highlight. And I like this one because obviously it works for a bunch of different skin tones. I tend to reach for this little corner right here, but if you have a deeper skin tone, you can go with these. I still find myself using almost all the shades in here though, because this is also one that is stunning as eyeshadow. You can basically create a whole eye look using just your bronzer. If you use the bronzer in the crease, whatever you're using for the day, and then put one of these metallic shades on the lid, you can do a kind of bronzier eye, or you can go in with the lighter one on the inner corner. There's even some pinks in here if you want to do more of a pink lid. This one doesn't swatch nearly as beautifully as it looks on the face, but here are a few swatches. Super pretty over texture. This does give you that almost wet look. And then last, ColourPop Super Shock Cheek. So I have a couple shades that stand out to me. Smoke and Whistles, which is this one, and then Flexitarian. Those are probably my two favorites that I've tried. And ColourPop, if you've never tried their Super Shock shadows, very unique formula. Very similar to the Velour highlight by AOA where they're almost like bouncy. You can see like the imprints in there. If you're someone like me who typically can't use a cream or kind of more wet formula on top of powder, this does not do it to you. You can apply this on top of powder. It's not going to give you the weird texture. And the shades are just so insane. Look at that. I love these on no foundation days if I'm just putting on a little bit of highlight and I want to look really glowy, or on top of like full on makeup days like this. I'm actually not wearing a ton of highlight today, so I can apply a little bit more just to show you. And this formula I typically like bringing kind of higher, like right here. Oh, so pretty. It just is so reflective. ColourPop you can get on Ulta now, super affordable. If you've never tried this formula, you need to. This one is kind of like an honorable mention because they don't actually, I don't think, make this exact shade. I don't know if it's just out of stock right now or if it's coming back or what. This is the e.l.f. Glow Highlighter in the shade Moonlight. I used this recently in the Foxy Eye video if you want to see what it looks like on, but it is very similar to the ColourPop. Super bouncy, super reflective. I did see that they still had another shade on their website. I think it was the darker shade, so I'm not sure what's happening here, but if you can get your hands on this, I wanted to mention it because, again, it's very similar to ColourPop and it's just stunning. So those are all of my all-time favorite drugstore affordable highlighters. I'm gonna link all of them down below if you want to check any out. Highlighter is one of those things now that there are so many amazing drugstore highlighters that there's a couple high-end ones that I haven't found comparable to drugstore, but for the most part, you can find an amazing highlighter for under $10, and it's one of those things that you don't necessarily need to splurge on. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, you can give it a thumbs up. The high-end highlighters video will be coming. But I love you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video.